been doing out in Missouri and the Kansas-Missouri area over that way. And, we haven't had a lot of kind of Midwestern people on lately, so it'll be an interesting show for sure. And he's from our fan page, so a little fan appreciation as well.
Yeah, and I always enjoy the hell out of doing that. Everyone knows I love the fans. The fans are great, and I do everything I can for them. So it's going to be great chatting with him and finding out a little bit more about him, which I think he's there. Hey, Rob, are you there? I'm here. Hey, Rob's here. So,
yeah. Well, welcome to the show, Rob. And he's been investigating for quite some time. He's not a newbie, so it's gonna be good. Yeah.
Definitely. So how you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. Just getting off work here and getting here on the radio.
Excellent. How's the weather down there?
Looks like it's sunny and about 73 today.
That's about what we had up here in New York. So we're about the same right now.
Yeah, it's a nice day.
There was no sun today, though, and it was windy as hell, so it felt a lot colder than what it really was. But it was in the 70s.
Well, again, we're floating in the pool down here. It's hotter than hell. The sun is shining, and it's in the 90s. Oh, yeah, we're sweating around.
Got a sticky little bikini on, Jodi?
Of course. Yeah. I'm going to be working on my tan. It's so weird that Rob was coming on because, my sister was out just past Kansas City, and my parents just left to go to Kansas City yesterday. So weird that we would be having, coincidentally, someone on from that area. And, they left, so I'm going to be hitting their pool all week long. For sure, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. So we have some cool, weird news stories for everybody tonight. And, I had told Rob that we always like to kick it off with about a half an hour of weird news. And, Rob, you're welcome to join in the fun and comment and give us your opinions, because we love that, so don't be shy.
Well, I won't be shy.
Awesome.
That's what I like to hear.
So, I guess,
on the show.
I guess I could kick it off, and, I found a story, I just sort of stumbled across it, and it's about the late Miss Joan Rivers, and I know not everyone loves Joan, but I did. I'm kind of, a fashion victim, of course, and I miss her already from her late night, fashion television show. It'll never be the same. And so, there was a story about her encounter with the Ouija board. So I thought that might be kind of fun to talk about. And it's actually a new story. It just came out on September 12th. And, it says, can we talk? The Joan Rivers catchphrase is poignant for one figure in the paranormal community, in the days following her death. Robert Murch. Now, I'm not familiar with him, but apparently he is the foremost expert on Ouija boards. Have you heard of him before, anybody?
I have not.
Okay, I'm going to ask my friend who just wrote a book about that. Anyway, yeah.
In 1 quick minute, my wood guy is on the other line. I got to talk to him real quick.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
No problem. Okay, well, we can keep on going though, Rob, so I'll keep talking. Anyway, he serves as a consultant on multiple film projects concerning the use of, the famous talking boards, witch boards, Ouija boards, whatever you want to call them, including there is, I don't know if you are aware, but I did know that there's an upcoming movie based on the original Hasbro product, the original Ouija board. For 20 years, Robert Murch has collected and researched the history of Ouija and collected thousands of boards. And he's also exhaustively documented its use in popular culture and chronicled, how it's gone from a alleged spirit communication device to its current reputation of course, as you're going to, portals, dark forces, and possession, and all of that. How do you feel about it, Rob? Before I tell you how I feel, what do you think about Ouija boards? Do you not like them? Do you like them? Do you use them? What do you think?
Well, my feeling of, if you're going to any device that you use to try to communicate with spirits, you're opening it before so whether it be whether it be an IPC application or a spirit box or
is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you finish recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options. All the time, and I have articles that have been published over the years about it, but it's all about doing it the right way, and it's all about invite in or so it's really not about the story. It's really, it's not the user. It's not really to be afraid of. But anyway, it brings us to Joan. Joan Rivers had, as you know, a color sharp wit. She definitely wasn't a force from hell, but she actually had one of the old-style glow-in-the-dark Ouija boards. And I actually found this that I removed from someone's house that I did an investigation in years ago. And she had brought it on the second season, and I didn't actually see this, but I watched the series a few times for WETV series Joan and Melissa from Joan Knows Best. I don't know, you probably never watched that, but I did. And so in the February 2012 episode, she had a receiver of her, and her daughter. And so, this was just really another chapter in, Ouija history, and it did pique Murch, his curiosity. So before he attended her live show in Boston in 2013, because, Joan was always doing stand-up comedy shows, he tweeted to Rivers actually asking her if she would sign, a board from his collection, one of his pink Ouija boards. And God, I'm actually surprised that she even got back to him, because hardly anybody gets back to you from Twitter, let's face it. But her management, right? Once in a while somebody gets back to me. I'm on Twitter all the time. But usually only if I'm asking them maybe to be a guest on the show. Otherwise, they blow you off all the time. But her management did get back to him quickly to arrange it. And so that was cool. So after some scheduling issues, Murch actually got to meet with Joan, and she apologized that they hadn't connected earlier. And according to the historian, when Rivers took the board, she actually was delighted. And she said, "Can we talk?" How she always said that with a laugh. And she then quickly added, "Well, I hope we won't be talking on this anytime soon." Oh, wow. That's so creepy. And so he said that she also invited him out to lunch, during the next time that she would be in Boston where he lived. So, everybody knows that Joan Rivers was a comic genius and a fashion legend and a comic legend, and, it's all true. But she was just a super cool and humble woman who took the time to meet with him last year and sign his pink Ouija board. That's how he really felt about her after one of her shows. He was really taken in by that. It made him feel really good. And so, when he was asked, Murch is actually a skeptic when it comes to the Ouijas. And so he was asked about their supposed paranormal connection. He was asked if he would ever reach out to Joan on the board that she signed. And there's actually a picture of it in this article, which is from the not necessarily so credible Huffington Post, but it is a picture of it. Clearly she did sign it. But anyway, it was asked if Robert Murch would go ahead and reach out to her, and he said, "Look, if I was ever going to try to contact anyone on the other side, it would be Joan Rivers." So he jokes that in the same episode that they used the Ouija, that Rivers actually recorded her voice through a GPS device and also placed it in her daughter Melissa's car. And she said, how fabulous. Long after I'm dead, I'm still going to be there telling you exactly what to do, Melissa. That's what she said to her daughter. God, that's so creepy. God, and and I'm laughing because I have a 21-year-old daughter, and I could so picture myself doing that, but that's so weird, because I'm a psychic, and I say to her all the time, because I've had relatives come visit me, I say to her all the time, and sometimes I'm just joking, I'll say, I'm coming, I'm going to haunt you after I'm gone if you do this. But that doesn't sound so bad since, as this, and Robert Murch is describing himself. He says, as the straightest gay guy that has ever lived, I could certainly use her fashion advice. So, anyway, I think that's a really cute story. Definitely anybody, feel free to look it up on the Huffington Post. You can see a cute picture of the Ouija, signed by Joan, that's owned by Robert. So anyway, what do you think? Have you ever worked with one before, Rob?
I did when I was younger. Probably, we had one in my house growing up. I used it a few times with my family. It was pretty active.
That's kind of cool that you did it with your family. That's kind of neat.
My mother was very, she wasn't a psychic or anything like that, but she was very open to, very mystified by, what I would consider the psychic world. And we used it a few times, and there was a gentleman that she did know that came through the board and communicated with her. While we were there. Now, I was a child, so, I was just kind of watching. But, definitely, there's definitely some stuff that went on with that session that I remember even today, and it's been, almost 30 years, so... So as far as me using them, I don't use them as far as my, paranormal investigating or anything like that. I've always been kind of skeptical of the whole, if you touch a Ouija board, that dark forces are going to come pouring out of the walls.
Right. I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
I've just done too many home cases to be swayed by that.
I am. I actually, as much as I love them, I don't use them for my paranormal investigations either. I do take in pendulum, and occasionally, more for special events aside, not on a personal paranormal investigation, but for a larger event of some kind, or for a seance event that's specifically, scheduled to be a seance event, I will take something like that in. But no, I don't normally take one out with me, on a regular investigation. There's so many other things that you can use that are so much more credible and, ways to document your evidence. I don't blame you.
I don't even own one, so.
No? Okay.
No.
You could make one. I mean, if you really wanted one, let's face it, it's so easy to just make one. You really don't need anything fancy. It's not it's not a difficult thing at all. Back in the day, everybody kind of made them. You just need a sort of a glass, like a highball glass, and some paper, really, or a table. It's really pretty simple.
So, the method predates Milton Bradley, so, I mean...
Of course, yeah. I mean, absolutely. And we'll hear much more, everybody, about Rob's investigating methods, and tools that he likes to use, and some really cool things that he's done after the weird news. Has Jason come back or no?
I'm here.
Oh, yay. Okay. Yay. So, Jason, anything to add to that story?
Well, I can add a lot to that story, but we'll keep it simple.
All right. Well, we can move on, yeah.
I'm not really big with Joan Rivers.
I know.
It is what it is. I think she predates me, so that's my genre. And as far as Ouija boards, I mean, you know what I feel about Ouija boards. I think they're close personally, and quite frankly, I've been trying to, find out to see if there's any validation to these big old claims of, portals being open and people being sucked down into hell, and it's all bullshit to say. And
I think so. I love Asia Wars, but I don't believe in the portal sucking you down to hell. And if that happens, I really hope you get it on film because I totally want to see that.
Hasn't happened yet, and as I said, I've read more than enough tests on that fucking thing to try to find out there's any all validation to any of those false stories that you hear from people, and it just doesn't, I'm sorry, it doesn't exist. But it's just a paranormal tool. That's it. That's all it is.
Oh, that's all it is. So, all right. Well, what's our next story?
What do we have? We have what did we have from the mirror.
I have Martian meteorite yields more evidence of the possibility of life on Mars, or devil-worshipping cults. Is that what you're going to read about? Devil-worshipping cults?
I was just going to do that one. But, hey, if you want to do the Martians, let's do it.
Okay. Okay. Here, I'll take that for you, because I know how you like the science stories. Okay. A tiny fragment of Martian meteorite, 1.3 billion years old, is actually helping to make the case for the possibility of life on Mars. So scientists are finding now that there is a cell-like structure, which investigators now know once held water, and this is actually from Science Daily. So this is an extremely credible website. This is definitely not the Huffington Post. So, the finding of this cell-like structure, which they know once held water, came about as a result of a collaboration between scientists in the United Kingdom and Greece. And their findings are published in the latest edition of the journal Astrobiology. So, while investigating the Martian meteorite known as NACLA, it had to be hard. That's why I picked it for Jason. Dr. Elias Shatburidias of the National Technical University of Athens found an unusual feature embedded deep within the rock. So, in a bid to understand what it might be, he teamed up with a longtime friend and collaborator, Professor Ian Leon at the University of Manchester. So, Leon is based in Manchester School of Earth, which is atmospheric and environmental sciences, and he explains that in many ways, this actually resembled a fossilized biological cell from Earth, but it was really intriguing because it was undoubtedly from Mars. And the research found that it probably wasn't a cell, but that it once did hold water that had been heated, probably as a result of an asteroid impact. And these findings are really significant because they add to the increasing evidence that beneath the surface, Mars does provide all of the conditions for life to have formed and evolved. And it also adds to a body of evidence suggesting that the large asteroids hit Mars in the past and produced long-lasting hydrothermal fields that could sustain life on Mars, even in later epochs if life ever emerged there. So the feature was imagined in unprecedented detail by Dr. Sarah Haig of the University of Manchester, whose work usually involves high-resolution imaging for next-generation electronic devices, which are made by stacking together single atomic layers of graphene and other materials with the aim of making faster, lighter, and bendable mobile phones and tablets. And a similar imaging approach was able to reveal the atomic layers of material inside this meteorite that they found. So the combined experimental approach has revealed new insight into the geographical origins of this fascinating structure. So they've been able to show that the setting is there to provide life, not too cold, it's not too harsh, and life as we know it in the form of bacteria, for example, could be there, although we haven't found it yet. But it's all about piecing together the case for life on Mars. It may have existed, and in some form it could exist still. So now they're using other state-of-the-art techniques to investigate new secondary materials in this meteorite and the search for possible biosignatures, which will provide scientific evidence of life, past or present. So we must carefully continue the search for further evidence. I think it's interesting. What do you think about that? Pretty cool.
I think it is interesting that they're finding all these weird things on, moon and so forth and so on. They do have a lot of evidence that, suggests there has been water on Mars, and they've been researching that for 10 years now, 15 years now. And they're planning on, I think, shooting a droid up to Mars and digging in deep and get more samples. But
well, for sure, this cell for sure did hold water that had been heated. Like, they're saying that for sure now they know that this did hold water. So that's why I thought this was so interesting. Because they're always trying to prove that there was water,
Yeah.
And this is dated, the 15th of September, so it's a brand new story. Pretty cool.
That is cool. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also, and people can look this up, there's a program now where you can actually buy a trip, 2016.
Mm-hmm. I know, right? It's so crazy. That blows my mind. That just blows my mind. That's so crazy. I don't know if I would want to do that or not. You want to go? Are you going to want to? I mean, if you could afford that, would you go?
I wouldn't go.
I don't know if I would either. It's kind of creepy.
If I'm not mistaken, it's a one-way trip.
Oh, I'm not surprised. Yeah, see?
I'm not going.
Yeah, see? Rob's not going. Yeah. It's kind of creepy.
And this is just my honest opinion, and we're going to branch off into conspiracies here for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that is obviously the government is funding. If the government knows that you're not going to survive on Mars because of the harsh climate, the lack of oxygen, complexion is going to wind up killing you, why are they funding something like that? It makes no sense.
I mean, is this a way to control the population, perhaps? Maybe.
Maybe the government knows that the only way you're going to be able to get onto Mars is, through wealth, and maybe he's trying to get a lot of the more wealthy people out of the planet for some kind of world domination.
Maybe. You know how I feel about government conspiracy. I wouldn't put it past them.
I don't know. They just don't have the science to get the people back at this point from going so far out.
Then why would they allow a program like this, knowing that there's a good chance you're going to die?
Well, it might be the only way to get there.
It might be.
I don't know. It's just a weird situation, and I don't know. If the government's conspiracies, that would be something to look into.
Absolutely. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it. That's for sure.
It's all good though, but it would be cool if they do find some kind of life on Mars, and I'm sure there's probably microorganisms somewhere amongst that harsh territory. But whether or not there is, who knows?
Yeah. Crazy.
It is. It's all good though. All very good.
Right. Wow. I don't know if you want to do another story or if we want to.
6:30 now.
Yeah.
I try to keep longer than a half hour.
Yeah.
They're getting longer and longer. It seems like every week. Every week it seems like we used to be able to do 3 stories without a problem, and it would be at 20 after. Now it's 2 stories and it's 6:30. We must be getting better at it.
Yes. I mean, it just depends on if it's something that we can really shoot the shit about or not, I guess, But yeah, let's talk about Rob. Let's talk about you. Tell us what's going on over there in Missouri. What's happening? Tell us how you got interested in the paranormal and a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I got into the paranormal from the history side of things. Years ago, I got invited to an investigation by some folks, and I was really more interested in the history of the locations than I was in paranormal. I mean, I was always interested. I grew up kid of the 70s, with In Search Of, with Leonard Nimoy, and shows and sightings in the early 90s, and I was always intrigued by all that stuff. There was always some family folklore, but you know, I was more of an old punk rock guy, you know, and you know, that was my background, and you know, I did serve in the Navy, you know, but I've done a lot of things, but you know, I don't know, I just kind of fell into it, and you know, I went out with some folks, and then after first doing paranormal investigating, probably back in 2005 or 6, I was pretty, you know, pretty hooked. Before then, I'd done a few things, but not like where you would kind of say what is modern paranormal investigating. You know, then I was really into it for the history. You know, I have a degree in history as well as computer science. So, but I don't do that for a living. You know, so I never really had an outlet for doing the history stuff. It was just kind of there. You know, I just read about it more than anything. But you know, with doing this, I got to go to a lot of historical locations and kind of go behind the scenes, which is something we don't. You know, just taking the tour isn't always something you get to do. So.
Right. Now, who did you first? Did you first just go out with some friends, or was it a particular group that invited you along?
Yeah, I started out with some friends, but then I joined. I used to be in another organization here in Kansas City called Kansas City Paranormal Research, which ran for about 3 years, and I started investigating with them, and they were much younger than me, so I kind of helped them run, you know, kind of more of the organizational type stuff. Kind of took and helped a lot with that sort of thing because, you know, I have more of a business background. You know, and I work in healthcare IT for my living, so I definitely have to be a manager of time and resources and efforts. So, you know, that definitely is something that's come into being useful running a paranormal investigation organization. So,
absolutely.
So that's kind of how I fell into it, and then I was just kind of, you know, help them with different aspects of it like that. And then once that organization kind of ran its course, I formed this organization with another member, and then I would say in 2007, we've been going ever since. Pretty hard. A lot of investigations every year. A lot of places. Still going strong.
Cool.
Excellent. Now, what was the basis of your whole idea of investigating? Did you get, you know, your you know, how you investigate through asking other investigating teams, or have you watched TV and said, hey, I can do that? I mean, what was your, you know, how did you come up with your style or technique on investigating?
Well, I had, you know, I was friends with some folks from St. Louis. Missouri Paranormal Research is one of the groups that we were friends with. You know, over the years, I just kind of developed my own, what I would consider my own style. You know, definitely use a lot of the modern paranormal techniques, but I think everything's evolved. What I do, especially over the last, you know, 7-8 years, it's totally different than where I started. I can't even compare the two.
Oh, sure.
So, I mean, you know, what I had as ideas back then are, you know, some of the stuff I still use, but I think I kind of evolved to trying to find a little more complex answers to things now.
Excellent. And do you like to bring in your knowledge of history and love of history into your investigating?
Oh, most definitely. You know, here in Kansas City, this is a very historical region. You know, during the Civil War, a lot of the sites we investigate here are Civil War-related sites when it comes to history because, you know, this area was not like, you know, out east where although we had armies fighting here, it was more like neighbor against neighbor. You know, it's bushwhackers and jayhawkers fighting each other.
Oh, yeah.
You know, in the woods here, in small bands. So you had kind of like, you know, here it was kind of like Bosnia or something like that, you know, in the 90s. It was just pure civil war with no quarter because if you were captured, you were hung. So there was a lot of battles here. There was a lot of little skirmishes all over this area, and this area was known as the Bird District during the Civil War because the counties that surround what is now Kansas City were just what they call the Sea of Chimneys because it was just burned out. Yeah.
Cool. So how long did you mostly focus? I mean, did you mostly just focus regionally, sort of on that St. Louis and Missouri, you know what I mean, Kansas sort of area in historical locations for a long time, or you know, what do you do? Do you travel to different states?
I do some. You know, definitely I've got kids, 10 and a 5-year-old, so, you know, I'm limited. You know, as years pass, I probably traveled more than I do now. I primarily focus on the greater Kansas City metro and then throughout Missouri and Kansas and up to Iowa and around that area. I do a lot of home cases. You know, it's kind of slowed down lately in the last couple of years or so because I think when we started, there were maybe about 3 organizations in Kansas City area. Probably back then. I think there's upwards of 20 some now.
I think you're right. Yeah, I hear from some of them. Okay.
So there's really, you know, there's not as many home cases that, you know, we probably take as many anymore as we used to. And we're kind of much more have a higher criteria for our home clients. You know, make them, you know, I have to make them jump through a lot of hoops a little bit before we come investigate. And some clients are willing to do that and some aren't. So, you know, that's the kind of thing I've discovered.
And I do get people from time, you know, as you know, I have family quite a bit out that way, and I do actually get people from time to time looking for someone reputable in that region. So if I get something that I think is a credible case, I'll definitely let you know, Bob, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
You know, because I'm not familiar with some of the groups that are out that way, although I was aware that there were getting to be quite a few of them. I don't blame you. You know, I have some criteria for home investigations as well. Do you have sort of a questionnaire? Do you go and meet with people before you do home investigations? What are you doing?
Yeah, we definitely, you know, definitely send them questionnaires, and we definitely interview them probably more than twice. Try to get a kind of a feel for what's going on. I also asked for a series of photographs of their home and the surrounding outside. That's something we started to do because you just don't, you know, you just don't want to walk your people into something that could be a murder situation or, you know, you just don't know, you don't know what you're stepping into. And I think that's something you need to do to protect yourself and the members of your organization. You know, so you definitely have to cross-examine folks as much as you can.
Absolutely. I am laughing because I have once stepped into a hoarder situation. Jason, have you ever had that happen?
Hoarder? I actually got into one last night.
Oh, my God. Only once, and it was awful, and it was definitely a hoarder situation, and our whole group went up there, and we were not expecting that. It was years ago, and it was bad. It was bad. Yeah.
I had it happen.
Yeah. It's scary. Oh, my God. I'll hear about Jason's story after. Yeah, so, I mean, who sort of taught you about investigating? Is it from the group that you were with, or do you read a lot of, I mean, over the years, clearly you've been doing it for a while now, but did you read a lot of books on paranormal investigation? Did you read a lot of books growing up on the occult? You know, what were your favorite sort of research topics?
I mean, I did, you know, I definitely just started out basics, really, you know, doing EVP work and buying as many and varieties of camera systems that I could come up with. You know, I did, you know, I started to get into a lot of ITC type stuff, and I do a lot of experimental type stuff with that. One other thing that I do use, and I have for years now, is I have a friend who's a remote viewer. He's a full clairvoyant. He lives out in California, and he reads my cases for me a lot of times, sometimes before I go, and sometimes when I'm on site. So what we do is we set up a speakerphone type situation, and he'll read while we're on the location to kind of get a feeling for what's going on, what he feels is going on. Now, I don't take what he tells me, as word-for-word fact. Of course, I'm trying to take what he gives me and link it up with any other evidence I might capture, because I like to try to connect 2 or 3 data points together to try to get more of a, an idea of what, or if anything he's telling me has any kind of basis in history or reality, current reality. And another thing that, I try to take everything that we gather as far as all the data and try to connect dots, definitely. Instead of just having one, you're going to have one awesome EVP. Sometimes that's maybe all you'll get. But it's really nice if you can correlate that to something in history or somebody in history or an event or some other evidence that you've collected from, or I hate to even use the word evidence, but data from some other type of device that you're using or running on location. That's the best.
Oh yeah, that's the grail. When you can get everything, when you can connect the dots like that and get real data or evidence, that's fantastic. When you can get it from multiple pieces of equipment at the same time, I mean that's what we all sort of live for. I think.
I agree, and I always try to use as many pieces of equipment as possible for any type of situation I'm thrown into, whether if I'm doing EVP work or whatever the case may be. I love having multiple devices to solidify what I'm capturing, whatever I'm doing it. Even when it comes to debunking or trying to figure out these logical explanations, I like to have multiple devices. I'm going into court, you need 3 evidences to say, hey, he's guilty. You just can't go with one little thing. And I look at it the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot over the years. I've probably done now close to, 100 home cases.
Oh, wow.
Because we used to just take so many, but now, a lot of them you can kind of walk in and get an idea really fast, whether there's something really happening or not. But I think, also using a lot of practice in the debunking, kind of reading. I think you almost have to be a psychologist on some level when you do home cases, just kind of get an idea of people. Are they really experiencing something? Are they looking to be on a TV show? What's their expectation? What's their motivation behind wanting to have an investigation? So I mean, I think you get really good at debunking, not just from a physical level, like, finding things that have another explanation for what they're experiencing, to, from a psychological point of view, are they just predisposed to experiencing that sort of thing, or do they have every episode of Taps and Ghost Adventures and every DVD in their library on their shelf? That's stuff you look for. Just because.
Oh yeah.
Some people maybe want a haunting.
Well, I think some people look for it. They want the attention, and that's why I don't like doing a lot of private residential cases too much anymore. I do them, just not as much, because most of them, I'm not going to lie, are fucking whacked in the head. Yeah, it is what it is. You trying to help people.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, sometimes just operating, I didn't mean to talk over, but sometimes operating an alternate explanation to stuff is helping them.
It does, because it puts their mind at rest. If they're hearing something, clearly they're experiencing something. I mean, if you have someone, like you said, when you go there and you've interviewed them twice and you're sitting in their home really talking to them, you do start to get a feeling of what's really happening there. If they truly have a haunting or if they're just looking for attention. And if you need a full-on investigation or if you're going to wrap it up pretty quick. And if there's really something happening there, then there is, and you need to really try to get to the bottom of it. But if this person just needs someone to talk to, you can wrap it up pretty quickly and, assure them, what's making those sounds or what's happening. And, the reassurance does make them feel better. It really does. And so in a way, you've helped them. You've done a good deed, and I don't do as many residential cases as I used to either when I first started out, but I absolutely am so happy to help anyone that really needs help. And, I address it on a case-by-case basis when someone approaches me about a residential case. And I love to help people. If someone, especially, if someone has kids and they're, I'm going to be there. So, I admire that you're doing a lot of residential cases like that, because not as many groups are wanting to do them, as there used to be. So you should definitely put that out there in your area. That you're always there to do those residential cases, because many of those new little groups that are popping up in your area, they might be just sort of looking for attention, and they might really not be doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We had actually a question in the chat room. It was a private question, I guess. One of my faithful fans wanted to know how I got into the paranormal.
Oh.
If we're getting into this, we might as well go around the circle, which we already heard about Rob. So I'll talk about this for a minute, and then we'll hear Jodi's side of things. But what got me into paranormal was, obviously, I wrote my book was all based on that, on Rest in Peace, which everybody can go and buy on Amazon now if you wanted to. So I'll give you a quick brief off of what exactly got me into this whole, paranormal, I guess you can say. I was very young, extremely young. I was about 14, 15 years old then about, and growing up, I wasn't exactly, I guess you can say, the most popular kid in school. I was actually picked on and bullied a lot. So I was, as you can say, I was alienated from society most of the time, and my parents' idea of raising me was get the fuck out of my hair. So I had no one really to go to and chat. But in the same token, I really can't blame them for having that attitude. They had 5 kids all together growing up. So it was rough. And starting out alienated, I used to try to avoid social situations most of the time. So, I used to hang out in cemeteries and so forth and so on because, no one hung out in them. So it left a good place for me to just get away from, my family and everybody who was hanging out at the park and so forth and so on. And I was able to be alone. And I did tend to find my inner peace, I guess you could say is the best way to say it. But, after a while, we lived in a small apartment. It was a small 3-bedroom apartment. And I grew up right across the street. Well, in that apartment, right across the street was the old Salesian school building in Goshen. And, George Carlin went to school there, which is kind of cool. So I was right across the street from where he went to school. And he got kicked out. So, it was a Catholic school when he went there. But it was opened up for like a summer camp, and they had weekend activities, which was all right because, I went there a lot and played pool, and had video games open, and I figured out how to chip the video games out and get free games and shit. So that was always that interesting. But anyway, back on point. The apartment was getting too small, so my parents needed to find a different place to live. So they found, this nice house out in the middle of nowhere of Goshen. 5 miles from town, and if you wanted to walk to town, you had to walk on the main fucking road and get hit by a car. And so when we moved there, I didn't really go anywhere too much. There's a couple places I walked to, but not too much in town anymore, I guess you can say. So, we get in there, and this place is obviously old, very old structure. We've got, fieldstone. It was built with fieldstone and so forth and so on. And, I didn't know what it was originally designed for. I really didn't even care. I was a teenager. I was 14, 15. Much like all the other teenagers, I was a big fucking stoner.
Yeah.
So we take the place, and they had garbage bags piled up all over the place, and we had to take like 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks just to clean it the fuck out and paint it. get it all so that we could live there. And then, after a while I was living there, a couple weeks after that and so forth and so on, I started personally noticing some odd little things happening, footsteps on, stairs, and, they used to be what at one time I would imagine was a dining room that it was used for, but my parents, they turned it into like a game room, and they put a pool table in there, and there's a dartboard, and there's a bookshelf that was kind of inlet into the wall, and, there's a couple books, they had some books up there and so forth and so on. Every once in a while, one of those books would just fly off the wall and land on the pool table and shit. So, just a lot of weird things and stuff, and, I'm still kind of alienated and shit, and I don't have no one to turn to and talk to about it, and needless to say, I can't get away with the hot, steamy part of it, but I did wind up finding a friend who used to hang out with me, and, we talked a lot in the book. Well, anyway, that's what I was saying, and she wound up helping me out throughout the whole time I was able to go to her and doing different investigations and so forth and so on in the house, which was kind of cool. But that's what got started in the whole paranormal field and research.
Awesome. Is that what you're calling it now, Jason? That investigating in the house with her?
I don't think so. If you read the book, you'll know what the joke's about. Yes, I did a lot of investigating on her, yeah. I can't deny it, but
I'm just going to say that it's a very sexy book, and Jason fully investigated her. Oh, yeah.
I did. I investigated her several times. It's okay, but she did help me along. She was there for me at that particular moment where, like I said, I was isolated from the time. So it was kind of cool, and yeah, we did some, I don't want to call it investigating in the house, but, it was, I guess you can say it was along that genre, but it definitely, I wouldn't consider it. And like I said, it was the early 90s, and the resources that were available to get questions or answers from was just there, We were talking 90, 91, 92, 93 at the most. The web wasn't available. You just couldn't type into Google ghost hunting paranormal thing and pop up. It wasn't going to happen. And if you went ahead and socialized about the sort of phenomena, you were going to get locked up. So, it was
so true. No, that's so true. Back then, you just didn't walk around telling everybody that kind of thing. It's so true.
Yes.
I think another one around here was they had like a local psychic TV show for a while. It was public access type of show, and I think that was about the closest you had around here to, being anything on TV even.
Yeah. There was psychic radio, call-in numbers. I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the Jackson bitches were fucking psychic, I guess you could say. I don't know.
Psychics. There was definitely psychic stores in the 90s.
And they even had some, there was even some TV shows, but they were never investigating case. They were all, listen to this haunted story and shit like that. It wasn't, investigated, type of scenario or education on that matter. It was just listening to people come on a show and share a ghost story. There wasn't nothing back then.
I think sightings in the 90s was probably about the closest you got to any kind of like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, sightings was pretty cool in the 90s. I forgot about that, actually.
I have an old phone down here that rings really loud.
I hear it. It's all good. I heard about you, Jodi, considering I shared my story. Let's talk about yours.
Steve wants to hear that my story. Steve, it's so funny because my story does involve whipped cream, leather, and handcuffs. How did you know? And hookers, and lockers, and fire engines, too.
Please, share your story slowly in as much detail as possible.
It all started as Jason did. Now, my story goes way back. I was a little girl, 5 years old, and I was, of course, sleeping in a bunk bed, and I was, of course, on the top bunk, and my sister was on the bottom bunk. But when Jason had me, he does like me to say that it was very dark, and we were cuddling under the covers, and little short nighties, and little short nighties. Anyway, I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night, please state your name after the tone. The little voice will try to reach.
Ron Percy.
5 or 6 years old, you don't realize that can't be happening. At the time, my father was a landscape architect, and we lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And my grandfather, of course, was out in Lawrence, Kansas, where my family, on that side is from. And, he was ill. He was, a diabetic and in a wheelchair. And, I had really no perception of that at all. But my father was his only child, and my sister and I were his only grandchildren. And he sort of patted me on the head and comforted me and, whipped me up and tickled me. And I sort of went back to sleep, and wasn't scary. And the next day I woke up and I went out to the kitchen where we lived, and I said to my parents, "Where's Grandpa? Where's Grandpa?" And they sort of looked at each other and, looked surprised and didn't really know what to say. And they later told my sister and I that night, they tried to explain to us that my grandfather had died that night. And, of course, it's very natural that he would have come there since, like I said, my father was his only child and we were his only grandchildren. So he had passed. And, as a child, I really didn't know that I was any different. I didn't know that I was different than anybody else. And there were other psychics in my family on my mother's side. I'm actually a fourth-generation psychic medium. I actually don't do remote viewing, like Rob's friend. Remote viewing is a completely different skill. But, I have a lot of others.
That's what feeling. That's what I do. That's when I make a picture and I look at it.
Yeah. That's what I take the picture and he looks at it. That's remote viewing. Yeah. Well, I guess I do that then. Yeah. I forgot. The blonde thing. So in the years following that, I started to, I would see shadow people in my room, and different spirits would come and visit me, some that I knew and some that I didn't know, and a lot of times I was afraid, and I just didn't know that I was any different than anyone else, and I was still afraid sometimes. I wouldn't want to get out of bed, even to go to the bathroom as a child, and I went to 12 years of private Catholic school, and of course, when you go to Catholic school, you don't talk about things like that, because people will think you're a weirdo, and, you don't really want to be different, and I was terribly shy as a child, and I was taller than everybody else. I'm 5'8", but I think I've been 5'8" since, 4th grade. So I, was taller than everyone else, and you know what I mean. And I was shy, and always, switched schools a few times. And so I was always sort of sitting at the back of the class because, my last name was Smith, and I was tall, and so I was always back there. So we didn't really talk about it, and I always studied, as I got older, as much as I could about anything and everything that was about the occult or esoteric subjects. I always had a huge interest in that and anything that involved hauntings and spirits and ghosts. And I always believed in everything because I constantly had spirits that were attached to me or following me. And, the different psychic skills that I have, evolved over the years. And that's sort of what happened. And as I got older, I learned that there were other people who were also interested in the paranormal as well, once I got to more of a high school age. And that's when I started to sort of hook up with other people that were interested as well, who actually wanted to go to locations and investigate. So, I started investigating old houses in the Fort Lauderdale area. There was a lot of old historic homes off of the sort of Los Olas area down there, and the old Biltmore Hotel in Miami was a favorite spot to go to. There was a lot of cool old hotels on South Beach before it was the South Beach that it is today. Back then they were, it was broken down old hotels where, sort of bums hung out and, anybody could go down there. So that's how I, first started investigating. And, I'm older than Jason, so, there weren't any shows on TV at all about anything paranormal back then. There weren't no psychic shows that I ever heard of. Anything that you had to learn, you really had to learn on your own, It was sort of a different time, and, we all sort of did it in a hush-hush way, really, until I got into college. But, my parents got me the Ouija board back when I was in elementary school, and that's when I first started working with Ouija boards and tarot cards and things of that nature. And, my parents never discouraged me, and nobody ever told me that I, wasn't psychic or that I couldn't see spirits or hear them or understand them. And, nobody ever tried to shut it down, which was actually great. Like so many people's parents, do try to do that to them, and I hear it all the time, and I think it's a shame. So, I can't hear you.
This is Rob. Can you still hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, now I can hear you.
I actually got kicked I had to come back in, so.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's my story. Completely a different kind of story than Jason had, for sure. I was a spoiled, rotten brat going to private school, and pretty much everybody told me I could do whatever I wanted to do, whenever I wanted to do it growing up, and in a huge contrast. So I was a little brat.
And she had the Catholic shirt that everyone.
I did. I had that little side skirt. I wore,
I guess you asked me. Yeah.
It was. Yeah, with a thong. And I wore my, back in the day, the knee socks. I had a zebra striped band, back when they were new and cool. Yeah. And, of course, I was a total stoner also. Because I grew up in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Of course. So we had that in common.
Yeah. That's our story, everyone.
That's it.
I grew up in a small town in Missouri, so a little different.
Yeah.
But it was a tourist town, so it was a lot of people from the outside always coming there. It's a place called Hannibal, Missouri. And it's the boyhood home of Mark Twain. And that's where Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and all that stuff was based around. I grew up around all that stuff. There's a large mansion by my elementary school growing up there that sat empty for like 40 years with all the furniture inside. It's called the Rockcliffe Mansion, but it was also called the Crookshank Mansion. I actually got to investigate it years back. It was on my bucket list, and it's got activity, but it's just one of those cool historical mansions that the paranormal investigator dreams about. You just picture the lightning going off over the top of it as you walk up the steps, but it was definitely cool. My brothers used to party in there back in the 70s before it was turned back into a historical location. So the man died, and the man died, and his daughters and his wife all just moved out and closed the doors and left everything in there for 40-some years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Nice. And when you investigated it, what kind of activity did you, happen while you were there?
I didn't really notice a lot while I was there, but I did get a few EVPs, but they always sound like they're in another part of the house calling out to you. Yeah. And it's like you hear children on the third floor and you're on the first floor. It's just always these different EVPs that sound like they're in a tunnel somewhere. So, I'd like to get back there, but I don't know. The place changes hands so many times, but I'm not sure that the new folks would be interested in open the doors again to that sort of thing. You know how that is.
Are they living there, like as a home?
It's a B&B now, I believe. So.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe then.
Yeah, that's kind of where I've been going in the last year. We're out looking around the state of Missouri and Kansas. We're always looking for these old historical mansions that kind of sit on the river somewhere and that really haven't been investigated. That's kind of the locations that excite me at this point.
Oh, I love B&Bs. Very cool.
B&Bs are all right. I've done my share.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, if it's a good historic location, I think they're cool. I like to stay at them and check them out. The old plantations, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all good. But, what kind of equipment do you use while you're investigating?
I use a lot of different. Of course, I got a lot of different camera setups. I experiment with a lot of different stuff. I've stole my son's Kinect, and I built a Kinect on the laptop, and I have several Spirit boxes from many different developers that I definitely use those. I use EchoVox. I use a little better, higher level EMF detection equipment. I've got got a dark matter meter, which kind of breaks down the different EMFs, so you can kind of eliminate the power sources when you're trying to investigate versus just old K2.
How does that work, Rob? I don't have one of those.
Basically, the guy quit making them. He only made a limited amount of them. It's basically it detects AC EMF, an extremely low frequency EMF, and very low frequency EMF. So it's like a tri-field, but it also will graph the investigation that you can pull it into like a graphical view, so you can see like in a bar chart or a wave chart, the EMF at this point spiked for this type of EMF, but dropped for this EMF. So it kind of gives you more of a graphical representation of the events while you were there. It also records audio at the same time, so you can map them together and kind of get an idea of what was happening. At different points in the investigation. So if you get an EVP, you can go back and cross-reference those EMFs and see, okay, well, what happened during that time period that, did there was some kind of EMF event at that time that I can tie back to this EVP. So, it's been really useful, especially if trying to, where you just get these huge EMF spikes in some place, as it, the grid's just putting out some big blast of EMF every so often, and that way I'm picking up on. You can definitely eliminate stuff like that. It's a pretty cool tool.
Have you ever used Lex meters or anything like that?
No, I haven't. That I haven't.
I've got one, and it works pretty cool actually. I've detected different light fluctuations between a very low lux to a high lux in certain areas where there is no windows to allow any kind of light. So it's definitely quite interesting to use one of those.
That's definitely something I'm gonna have to explore a little bit and see what I can. Yeah,
I don't have that either. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's you can buy it at Home Depot, Lowe's, or you can order one online. You can even go to the ghost store if you want to, and it's not called a Lex meter when you go there. But that's their. But you think it's a fucking Lex meter.
What do they call it there?
What?
What are they calling it at the ghost store?
They call it the shadow detector. It's a Lex meter. It's picking up light fluctuations in a specific area. So, that's what I heard it does, but, with that, when the light changes, light fluctuation changes, or when a little bell, or whatever the fuck it does, I have no idea, but, if you want to go out and just buy a Lex meter, you can get them for about $20, $25, something like that. It's very expensive, but it does a lot.
I don't have one. I think that's a great idea, and I don't have one, but I should have one of those. especially if I can pick one up for $20 at the Home Depot. Totally. I love that idea. Cool. Good tip.
It's pretty cool. And it's nice when you get, an EVP at the same time that, the light fluctuation drops or raises. So, it's definitely interesting. It also helps solidify orbs, even though I can't stand fucking orbs. But, if you can time stamp everything accordingly, and if you get a raise in your light fluctuation, and on your film at that particular moment, if you get bored or whatever, it could be because of that.
Right. And, once in a while I like a little orb. Depends.
You do like a little orb. Yes, you do.
Sometimes if one pops up, I like it,
I found with the Lux leader, you really have to isolate it, though, because if you're in a location where you have a lot of investigators around or any type of movement in the area that you're trying to use it in, I think it's easy to get it to set off so easily that I had a lot of problems with that someone will, it's very sensitive to, any type of shadows or someone opens the door or a flashlight hits it, it's off singing that little tune it does. So, but it's definitely very useful.
Yeah. That's why I just like going out and buying the basic Lux meter, because it gives you a digital readout of what it is rather than, having some kind of, light that goes off or whatever the case may be. So I can literally follow that particular, light pattern to any specific area, just by that digital, readout that it gives me, which is a lot better than, saying, oh shit, the shadow meter, where did it come from is the next question, where did it go? You can't really utilize that with that particular one, which is why I prefer to get original with what I buy. And I've always often said that if you do a little research on the gadgets that are out there, you can find cheaper ways of getting it, and often it winds up being a lot better. For example, going to Home Depot or Lowe's, you can get damn near everything that's on the go corner store right there at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff I have that I've built over the years, all our any kind of EMF pumps or any of that stuff, I've built them all by hand instead of. A lot of people don't know, it doesn't take that much work to really put some of this stuff together. It's quite simple.
Most of the time, it's just one little simple fucking, electric panel and a couple of wires. And it'll cost you literally anywhere between, a lot of the gadgets out there will cost you anywhere from $8 to, $30, depending on what you're planning on doing. When you're getting into illuminators and lights and so forth, that does cost a lot more because they're like $3 to $4 a piece. Mm-hmm. So you could spend about $40 on, just building yourself an illuminator. But, a lot of the gadgets, like an EMF meter or anything like that, you can build literally anywhere from $15 to $30.
Yeah. I do a lot of my illuminating with UV lights. I often set my houses, if I were going to run any type of DVR cameras or anything like that, I use a lot of UV lights versus IR lights. I just find that they tend to. I have a lot of more success with them, and they're easier to put together, and they put out ungodly amounts of light for cameras. So that's one thing that I do.
Yeah, UV lights are I like them. I got a couple of them that are just based on UV, but they're right.
Yeah, and I use a lot of the full spectrum cameras.
I've got one full spectrum camera. I love it. What you're dealing with, mine's a handheld, and when you switch it over to the night vision on the camera itself, it does fill the battery a lot faster. So, that's no problem with it. But, it is what it is. I know a lot of people think that, it's not the camera, it's the big skill in it, but no, it's the fucking camera. Well, if it does it every time you bring it out, it's the fucking camera. And that's what tends to happen. A lot of people don't realize that with those particular, the cameras you go with. When you switch the camera itself over into, night vision, it does eat the battery. for people to look at.
It's the power suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bad stuff. So what kind of equipment did you start off investigating with?
I started off simple. I had just audio recording devices and just still cameras and a cheaper video camera, and I just kind of started out with that and walking around in the dark and trying to talk to ghosts. That kind of started out as everybody starts,
Yeah.
I was probably about as psychic as a stone back then, or had any kind of awareness of spirits or ghosts or any kind of feeling like that. I think now, though, after all these years, when that activity picks up, the body knows.
Mm-hmm.
You know when something's going on. You just get that feeling, and I didn't always have that ability, I don't think, and I think it's a developed ability. And working with my friend Harvey has definitely helped in that regard a lot, because I kind of feel like when we do our remote viewing sessions, he's kind of like I'm kind of like his eyes a little bit. I'm kind of telling him what's going on, and he's kind of telling me what he's feeling. And I don't know. I'm not going to come out and say I'm psychic. Definitely not. But I don't know. I just get the sense when the activity's picking up. I just get that feeling now that I probably didn't have it back then. You just painfully unaware. It's just like, oh, well, I caught this on the audio recorder. I don't remember anything happened. I think I was just sitting there. And it's funny is you do all this EVP work and you try to talk to spirits and all this stuff, and I find a lot of times because it's almost impossible when you're investigating for 8 hours to be on target all the time trying to talk to them, and you get a lot of downtime where you're just talking about nothing. You're talking about the kids or whatever, and that's when they always seem to want to interject. You always get some of the best EVPs when you're not even trying to address them. So I don't know.
That is so true.
When you're just hanging out, you're throwing off your ass saying, hey, man, so how's your dog back? Things got in here, and just a small fuck bullshit. The other teammates, you wind up getting those activity that way. And I think it's because you're actually being yourself, and you're discussing about, real life situations, and I think the entities are more off with saying, hey, I've got some kids that's going to kindergarten too, they play football, and I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I always consider, you're kind of like not actively trying to pursue them, and it's kind of like they maybe are trying to move away from you when you're doing that. You get some responses when you're trying to talk to them.
Well, I mean, if someone came into your house and said, tell me who you are and what you're doing here, I'm not going to answer them. But if you're like, hey, man, I've got a party coming up this weekend. You want to come here? Sure. I might sit down and say, sure, I'll talk about.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you don't always try different methods whenever you're on a location, but yeah, I was kind of find the sitting down and talking about nothing method seems to get the best EVPs, so.
Yeah, we always say, so many of these investigators that are new and these groups that are popping up, they spend so much time, trying to learn by watching these guys on television, going around trying to provoke, and, they're trying to do crazy shit because they're on TV. They're trying to get people to tune in, so they've got to act insane. And that's not really the way really to get the right kind of interaction that we're really trying to get when we go to locations, and it's not the way to look credible. So I think so many of us have that same experience where when we're just sort of shooting the shit or asking just normal questions. A lot of times I'll sit with a group of people just in a circle and we'll just sort of ask really, just casual questions, not serious questions, just casual questions. And that is when you get the best, the best response. You take a nicer approach. You're more approachable.
Yeah, I think so, exactly. Some people, it's almost like they can kind of get a sense that, I don't like the term like a ghost hunter, you know what I mean? Because no one wants to be hunted. So I think if you go in there with the attitude, you're trying to be friendly and just casual about it, that you probably get, some better results. Now, sometimes they'll answer your questions directly. You'll get EVP responses to things you're asking. But, that's not always the case. And I think it's definitely different by location as well, too. One thing I like to use when I do EVP type sessions, I like dowsing rods.
Me too. I love that.
Not because I think they're evidence of paranormal activity, but just because they help me concentrate.
Really?
I can focus on what I'm trying to ask and what I'm, trying to get them to interact with me using those rods. And, I have a lot of success doing that versus just standing there in a room going, "Give me a sign of your presence," So for me, that helps me concentrate on trying to interact with them. It's just having those rods up in front of me. And sometimes they just move, on their own. So versus.
Well, wait, but how does it help you though? Like, what do you do? What is the method there?
I don't know if it's just that I'm able to calm my mind a little bit, because since I run the organization, I tend to get caught up in a lot of details, and I have a lot of people asking me stuff while I investigate. So they want, what direction they want to be. You end up being a general more than an investigator, trying to direct people in the investigation. So for me, I have to kind of calm myself down because I'm very short attention span person, because I work in IT, so I'm constantly multitasking all the time in my regular life. So when I'm on location and I'm investigating, I have to have something that settles my mind down, so that I can get onto that level to interact with these spirits and try to get them to interact with me.
Okay, so it reels you in.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, otherwise, I tend to get sidetracked real easy.
Okay.
I don't like to get in a hurry. So.
Oh, nobody likes that.
I don't know. Jodi can be in a hurry sometimes.
No, nobody likes that. I just said that.
I don't want to get beneficial out of it.
Jeez, now I lost. I was going to ask a question to Rob. Now I lost my whole train of thought, Jason. Got it.
I know that tendency of fucking people out.
Fuck me all up. Now you have to come up with a question because I totally lost my whole thing.
Considering that, you work at IT, has your basic day-to-day activities as a worker for IT ever help you investigating?
Oh, I think so. I mean, definitely from my technology education. A lot of the stuff we use in this field, well, not it might not be IT. It's some of it's electronic related. I think understanding how a lot of this technology works definitely helps. I think you definitely have to have a technical mind a little bit, especially if you're going to try to use some of the devices that we're using currently. Because not all of them were made for investigating. So you kind of are adapting something that was designed to check for something totally different. Using it to try and come up with evidence of paranormal activity. So I think, definitely from my IT career, as far as the technology side, definitely. It's also from the organization, like I was saying earlier, organizational stuff I'll have to do from it definitely helps me a lot as well. So, I work from home now in my basement, so I didn't always do that. So, that definitely kind of helps me a lot to kind of have to be self-organized, put it that way. Because I don't go to an office anymore. I have to be here working and be self-motivated.
I would never go into work then if I was able to work from my house.
You would, if you had deadlines. I
wouldn't.
If you
I'd be
had
like, I can finish that in 10 minutes. No big deal.
It's tough.
It is. I always had bosses that were, out of New York, constantly calling or I had things that were due on deadlines. So even though I was working out of the house, I was an account exec for years. So, I had a lot of office days at home. You have to stay on task because it is hard. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked from home now for 3 years, so it's definitely, my company moved to Denver, and so we work from home now, but, so it's definitely something you have to really be self-motivating to do. So, I mean, that helps me a lot because I have to multitask to get everything, to do everything, and I think running on a paranormal organization, you have to be able to multitask as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, how many people are in your group currently?
Right now, I'm running with about 7 individuals, 7 folks in my organization. I have folks come and go, but you're running a long time. People's lives change, and they have to maybe stop investigating, do other things, or move away, So, definitely probably have about, I would say, my co-founder, Wes, as he's still investigating with us, and then I have my case manager, Beth, and then I have about 4 or 5 other what I would consider part-time members. Mm-hmm. We kind of I interchange depending on availability and how many people we need. If you're going to go to a 3-bedroom house to investigate it, you don't need to take 10 people. So
right now. Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of mix and match folks based on their availability and what I need and what we need to do and the places we're going. Well, if it's going to be some giant location, you can take most of the folks.
Well, yeah, if it's a historic location, and I mean, I did the same thing. That's a nice size group I think that you have going, and I left my group back in Georgia, so I don't have I didn't have a group over here. I'm going to go ahead and join up with another group over here in Louisiana since I just moved here, as opposed to trying to start up my own again. But you don't want to be intimidating and drag all these people in for residential investigation. It's just not necessary. And I think it's great to have part-time members. And so many times I see with groups where there'll be a case manager of a group who will get all bent out of shape if every single person can't go to every single thing. And I think it's terrific that you are very flexible like that with your team. Sometimes they're available, sometimes they're not, and I think that's the way to be, really.
Well, sometimes you also get those people that are all hyped up and ready to do it, but every time you do have something that and you could use them, they're walking around saying, I can't make it. I can't make it. I'm ready to do it.
No, if they can never make it, then if they can never make it, then they do have to go, because that's just, that's not okay. That's, why did you even join?
I think you have to be a good, this is also being a manager in a lot of ways, or,
sure.
Where you're managing people. I try to give to everybody, of course I've had to let folks go over the years. If you've been investigating as an organization this many years now, I think we're 7 or 8 years now, you have to, you're going to have folks that just don't work out, no matter as much as you want them to. So, it's really it's never personal. But there's an end goal, and if you're not available ever, then you're really there's always someone else who really wants to try this out, and so you always have to give someone that opportunity. It's just like any other business. I think it's not for everyone. Definitely.
Oh, no.
It's a lifestyle.
It is. It's a lifestyle, an expensive hobby, And you want to try to keep that consistency with your team. So, I mean, it sucks every time you have to let someone go and sort of start over with new people. And, you know, it's hard to do that. I mean, let's face it, like we can all say it's not personal, but sometimes it is. You know, sometimes you just can't get along, or they can't get along with everybody. They're causing aggravation, you know what I mean, stirring it up. And, you know, there's nothing worse than that on a team.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I haven't really had anybody that was really off the rails or anything like that. But
you are lucky.
You know, I've had some folks that just, you know, I always put everybody on probation anyway to start out. So,
awesome.
You know, you get a 3-month probation. It's just, you know, because that way everybody gets to investigate with them, and that folks that have been around a long time to get an idea. You know, do they mix well? Do they follow instruction? You know, are they willing to pitch in? You know, you just never know. And like you were saying, a lot of people get excited about joining, but when it comes time to the rubber to hit the road, they're always around. So
yeah. And that's the hard part. A lot of it comes into the work that's involved. A lot of people don't like doing the work, and they see it on TV, and it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I want to do that's what I want to do, which is fine and dandy. But you know, when it comes down to it, I mean, there's a lot of prep work, and there's a lot of work in between, and there's a lot of end work. It's not going into a place asking a bunch of questions to record and go, it works that way. And a lot of people don't know that actually happens out there.
Yeah, we put in a lot of hours outside of the investigating. So,
of course.
You know, I build all the websites, all that stuff. You know, that's also time. You know, that it takes to do that. So, plus you go on my website, I put almost everything out there that we put in, all the data is. I put it out there. That's just my way I do things. You know, I don't go out and say, this is all the ghosts of Colonel Mustard trying to talk to you in the library. With, you know, I definitely put out there everything that I capture that I think is interesting, and I just let people decide for themselves. You know, this is what I gathered. Listen, you know, take from it what you will. That's just kind of my method. Not everyone does that. You know, they're trying to find that one perfect piece of evidence, in quotes, and I'd like to just take everything I got. I kind of like a pie chart, you know. I like to just throw everything out there and try to connect the dots. It's kind of how I work. So, you know, if you go out of my investigations, all the audio and stuff that I pull, I definitely put out there generally, just to let people listen to it.
Now, what is the most interesting location that you've ever been in?
The most interesting location I've ever been. Well, you know, I've done a lot of historical locations. You know, there's some of the big ghost places, you know, out there I've been, and they're pretty interesting. Feliska Axe Murder House a couple times, you know, I've investigated it. We had an investigator get run out of there, so...
Oh, wow.
That was pretty interesting. You know, Waverly Hills, I had a lot of stuff happen, you know. Mansfield Reformatory, probably one of my most favorite places I got to investigate was the USS Hornet in Alameda, and that was with just 3 other investigators. So, you know, I was in the Navy, and one of the other, and Harvey, who's my reviewer, this was a physical investigation with him out there. So he's a Navy veteran, so, you know, for us, that's like, you know, walking an aircraft carrier in the dark in the middle of the night. I mean, that's awesome. You can't get better than that. So those are some of the most, you know, exciting places.
Tell us about it, Rob. Tell us about that. I want to hear more.
Well, you know, we're walking around inside the USS Hornet, and it's pitch black, and it's kind of like being on a ship. If you haven't been in the Navy, but it's like being on a ship when everyone's sleeping. Basically, it's kind of the feeling I got. And you're trying to go through these doorways without hitting the knee knockers in the dark.
Right. Okay.
Take your shins out, and you know, when I was there, we got a hold of the 1MC, which is like the overhead announcing system, and we played like bosun whistles through that, and things that you would hear when you're on a ship, things that they would have heard during, you know, any spirits fest. You know, if they're from the crew, they would have heard that on a daily basis. So we use that to try to trigger activity. You know, I got a lot of EVPs in that place, but I didn't really notice anything outright happening at the time. So it wasn't like they were really active, and you know, I was interacting with them, but after the fact, you know, I did have a lot of EVPs in the location, but just the atmosphere was very cool, just walking in the dark in that aircraft carrier.
Just as a personal experience, it was really cool. And what was like the best EVP that you got there? What do you think?
I got one. There's one in the brig where they're saying things like "Get out, you bastards" and stuff like that. You know, the poor guy stuck in the brig in the afterlife. You know, how horrible is that? You know.
Wow.
So. You know, they've got them saying Harvey's name and videoing him and things like that. So, but definitely, I remember there was a lot of cold spots while we were there out on the ship. And this is down inside the lower levels, so it's not like, you know, it's pretty hot down inside of there. So it's not like it's out in the open spaces where the wind's coming in. So,
right.
We noticed that a lot in that location. So. Some other places, Birdcage Theater is very interesting. My local places in Kansas City that I love to investigate are a place called the Alexander Major's Home and the John Warnell House. Those are two of the places I investigate quite frequently. They're both antebellum homes here in Kansas City. I do public paranormal investigations for those locations in October generally every year. Yeah, we had a My Ghost Story episode from our Alexander Major's home years ago that was on. We captured a shadow that walked up the stairs there, that we caught it in 3 photos. And it was just from a cheap old Samsung camera, you know. One of our investigators was in the dark, and they captured it in 3 photos going up the stairs.
Is that on your website?
It is, yeah. If you go out to our Facebook page is out there too. We did a lot of activity there. Another place is the John Warnell House, which was it's an antebellum home. There was a major battle fought in what is now Kansas City in 1864 called the Battle of Westport, and that house was used as a field hospital for both armies. So, so they basically, the Confederates used it as a field hospital, and then when the Union pushed them out, they just went in and took all the Confederates and threw them out in the yard and their own people in there and started treating them there. So, I mean, the house has a lot of activity related to those times. So, you know, that's definitely a very interesting location to go to. It's very active. You know, there's other places here like Oddfellows, which is one here in Kansas City that's very, very active. I investigated I haven't for a while. They've kind of moved into the ghost tour type activities now there, so they don't really host other groups coming in anymore. It's more the public type events that they run now, and they have TAPS conventions there and things like that. So, but it's a very active location, very active. Got some great disembodied voices there.
Cool. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to check out some of those when I come out and visit my sister.
Yeah, definitely let me know when you're going to come to town, and I'll point you where to go. Another place, probably the most haunted place that I investigated, was probably one of the most darkest, was just this simple old ranch house in Lawrence, Kansas. And
where my grandmother lived.
Yeah, Lawrence, Kansas is pretty much almost a suburb of Kansas City now.
I know.
It's gotten so big. So, you know, it's definitely an old town with a lot of old haunts there. So a lot of places there in that area. And this ranch house just, you know, I got contacted by some clients that are having all kinds of crazy stuff. And, man, I've got I got so much dark EVPs out of that place, and just
Wow.
I had everyone in the basement downstairs, and there were stairs that go up to the kitchen. And while we're down there, everyone's dead quiet. You can hear someone walking back and forth in that kitchen, and they go to like the top of the stairs. It's almost like they're trying to look down to see what we're doing, and then you hear them move away again. These footsteps above you while you're in this basement. And they had a door in the basement that would pop open on its own all the time. Would open up. So we put a camera on it, taped it shut, and so they couldn't open it. And we got video of this door trying to open on its own. Finally, it does. And in this video, you can just hear all these weird EVPs going on in the background that aren't us. You know, it's really odd stuff. I mean, just weird spirit voices in this place.
Sure, that's rural Route 4 out there at my grandma's?
No, it's not. It's not far from KU. It's right there in Lawrence. So
yeah,
it's definitely an interesting place.
Cool.
Excellent. So there's lots of places here. They're just not as well known as the places on the coasts.
Oh, sure.
What kind of places would you love to go to in the near future?
You know, I'm gonna start trying to go farther east. I've been out west a lot. I'm gonna try to go east from now in the future. Try to hit some of the big locations, maybe like Eastern State, and there's that place in Virginia. Gosh, the name escapes me right now, but. There's definitely some places out there. I don't get east as much because my work doesn't take me there. So that's kind of on my list now, is to kind of go and maybe up into New England and go to a lot of the places that I've never been and check them out.
There's cool places in New England. That's on the field.
And maybe down south a little bit. So, it's just kind of the direction I haven't really had an opportunity to go. So that's kind of where I'm headed. And then locally, we're trying to investigate any kind of places that are untouched. Off the beaten path, that's kind of our motto right now, is where can we go that, it's kind of never really been investigated.
That's always...
A little bit of urban exploring, just out in the back roads, trying to see something that off the beaten path that damn well no one knows about, and it's like, all right, that's the one I want to check out.
I love that. God, when you can find that is so great. I just love that. And, Rob, when you come south, there's so much great stuff to investigate down the south. There's so many cool historic places that are just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely try to get out. As my kids have gotten older, I have to, their kid events eclipse my events. So I've kind of gotten to the point where I have to plan these little trips around football and things like that. So that's kind of my life. My son's a football athlete, so it takes over my life about September.
I'm sure.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Oh, yeah. You got to enjoy it while you can. It goes so fast. It really does.
But, any other questions? Yeah, definitely.
What kind of theories do you hope that you prove in the during your journeys of investigating?
Well, I think one thing that I'm kind of interested in is, like I talked earlier, I like to connect the dots. I've never been really lucky using camera equipment in investigating. That's kind of something that I'm trying to espouse upon. You know what I mean? Trying to be more successful at. I've always been kind of an audio, very successful with audio investigating, but never in video or photographs. I mean, that's something I've been concentrating on the last year or so. So I put out a lot of been putting a lot more time into my video stuff, just because I've just never been real successful at it. And, one thing I also, I work a lot in ITC, instrumental trance communication, and I work with a lot of spirit boxes. That's not always considered actual EV or actual paranormal evidence. What I try to do is I take my boxes out. I don't do my boxes in my house, so I take mine out to these different little locations that I know of around. I'm not a big cemetery investigator.
Okay.
That's something I shy away from, just because something happened years ago when I was first starting out that kind of made me kind of shy away from investigating in cemeteries. So I tend to go to these little skirmish sites and things that I know about in the area that are off the beaten path, and I use my equipment there. But I'm always trying to, not only am I doing ITC, but I'm trying to, get definite hits on other equipment while I'm doing it. So, I want to capture something on video while I'm doing ITC. I want to capture some unexplainable EMS spike or event, especially if it's outdoors, where you're not in a place where there's electricity.
Right.
You're at a river crossing or something like that, So that's kind of what the direction I'm going. I work with, I get ideas from different people, and one thing is the use of UV light, and that's the spirits move in the UV light range. That's another one that I've kind of been playing with. Like I said, I stole my son's Connect, and I was experimenting with that and using UV light with the Connect. That's another thing I've been playing around with, versus just using those little IR pinprick lights that it uses. So, that's kind of the direction of stuff I'm going right now. And who's to say in a year it might be totally different?
Well, there's always something new. I mean, yeah.
Excellent.
I'm kind of one of those guys. I just kind of do my thing and kind of, just kind of keep my head down and run my little experiments and see where they go.
Yeah. Do you have any religious background?
I was raised Baptist. That's my religious background. I mean, I kind of consider myself a Christian, but more of in a spiritual sense. I'm not really, wouldn't say I'm Baptist anymore. Not
if you're an investigator, you're not.
Yeah, they're not really open to this sort of thing. Yeah. I do work. My group is associated with the paranormal clergy, with Bishop James Long, so we do represent this region for them. So I'm open to all. I'm open to all faiths. And I'm not saying I'm going to believe everything they believe, but I try to find a connection between them all. And I think definitely, I lean towards Christianity. That's my background. So, you live in the Bible Belt out here, so it's a big city in Kansas City, so it's not as bad. But you get out into the small towns, it's something you definitely have to be aware of. I'm sure it's the same down south. So.
Oh, is it ever? Are you kidding me? The town I just moved out of, I was afraid to even tell anyone that I did psychic work or paranormal investigating, and I lived right next door to a preacher because I was afraid they would burn me down at the stake. It was such a small Baptist town. You just don't. I met one friend there, and as soon as I told her, we weren't friends for very long. Yeah.
I have a lot of friends. You saw that I have 2 Facebooks because I have all my old friends, that I've known for ages and ages, and they're not interested in paranormal stuff. So, so I tend to, kind of have my paranormal research area, and then I have my everything else. So, I just, like I said, I just keep keep on trucking and trying new experiments. And, I've never had a confrontation, though, based on religion doing this.
I get into them all the time.
Me too. I do. It's terrible, but I really do, and I hate it.
I've never had anybody point to me and say, "You're going to hell." You know what I mean?
I have that. I could share with you a funny story. I moved down South Carolina for I was down there for about 6 months and 7 months, and I moved down there probably about 4 years ago. And I landed this job, what I typically do, welding and so forth and so on in construction. And I was working for this guy. He was hardcore Baptist, and I didn't know about it at the time or even study on the religion at all. But, he hired me, and then, about a day later, I made the mistake of telling him that I was a paranormal investigator. And I swear to God, he looked at me and he said, if I knew that I would have never hired you. You're going to bring demons into my house, into my business. And I was like, dude, that's fucked up, man.
Yeah, I try to explain people, like, I'm trying to help people when I go to their house. I'm not trying to bring, demons out of the walls or anything. So I've definitely, doing some home cases. So you have to be sensitive to some people's face when you go to the house. But as far as, I just never had a confrontation like that. I'm surprised, like the town I grew up in, Hannibal, Missouri, there's haunted tours now and things like that go on there that I would never have thought would have happened.
I'll tell you.
One thing that I've learned about society, and no matter how religious you are, you praise the almighty dollar, and if something's going to bring you revenue, you're going to do it. Bottom line, doesn't matter how religious you are, doesn't matter if you're Baptist, it don't matter if you're the son of God himself. If you're going to make a buck, you're down for it. And in all honesty, it's all sacrilegious. It's all fucked up on the religious aspect.
Yeah. And I'll tell you guys, not having to do with religion, but as mainstream as we think that the paranormal is these days, as mainstream as we all think it is because we're so involved in it, 6 years ago, I was working for a huge cosmetics company, and I don't want to name it, but I was a national trainer for them, and traveling all over the country, and I was at a meeting. I was rolling out the fall color story to a big group of the management there, and it was a lunch break. I happened to be talking to a small group of people about a paranormal investigation that I was doing in the Georgia area at the time at a historic location that was, somebody asked me what I did over the weekend, and I was telling them about it, and they were really interested in it, and I really didn't think that much about it, to be honest, but the following week, I got written up by my boss for talking about it because someone complained who overheard it. They found it offensive. It went against their religion. Anyway, I got in trouble. I was threatened with my job because I was doing paranormal investigation, not necessarily because I was doing it, but because I talked about it. And I did feel threatened. So you do have to be careful. Even, literally, it was just over 5 years ago when that happened to me. So.
Yeah, I just don't really talk about. I just never. When it comes to my day job, it's just something I shy away from even discussing.
Yeah.
I just don't talk about it to folks. And some of them know, that. Yeah. Hasn't ever been a problem. So hopefully it stays that way.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Would be nice. We are almost out of time, and I guess we get all of our information out. So please tell us where people can contact you, how they can contact you, any events that you have coming up that you might want to let people know about, so forth and so on, where they can meet you, all that other good stuff.
Yeah, you can find us at www.eliteparanormalkc.com. That's our home website. We also have a Facebook page that you can go to, and we interact quite a bit with everyone on there. So that's under Facebook Elite Paranormal KC as well. Coming up this year, we're getting ready to do our public investigations in October at the John Warhol House. There was that. It's an antebellum home here in Kansas City, Missouri. We'll be doing 2 nights for them. Well, you get to investigate with us for, I believe it's going to be 3 hours a piece for each session. And then we'll definitely kind of show you what we do and the equipment we use. There might be another event coming up, but it's not solidified yet at a different location. Right now, we've been on hiatus investigating since June. I've been doing some personal experiments, so we'll get going here real soon to back to investigating new locations. And you know, everything we do, we put out on our website. So if you're interested in any of my past investigations, definitely go to www. You know, at the John Warhol House, there's been everything from a Confederate soldier seen smoking a pipe on the stairs to you know, we get a lot of cold spots. I've had disembodied voices there. I've had tons and tons of EVPs there. I've had direct communications via spirit box with actual historical individuals that lived in the home. So it runs the gamut. You just never know. It's definitely got a lot of activity in that location, and you just never know which one of them's going to surface. But they're pretty active.
Oh, cool. Sounds awesome.
That's when you check out everyone. If you're down there in the Missouri area and Kansas area and all that other good stuff, you definitely want to check out that event. It sounds interesting. I wish I was down there because I'd go to it personally, but I got to stay here in New York, and that's okay.
You're so tortured up there in New York.
I hate it here.
I know. You know, he does. He does. He's not to say that. I know he's so over it sometimes. So true.
Are you in New York City?
No, I don't live in New York City. I live about 75 miles north of the city, which is actually kind of cool because it's far enough away so I don't have to deal with that bullshit. But if I wanted to take a day trip there, I could. And it won't really, you know, drain my wallet. Well, I can't say that going to the city drains anybody's wallet. You can live a mile outside of the city and spend fucking $500 easily going there. So I was stationed in the Navy right by New York City, and for a while, and I was too poor to actually do anything. You can't even go to a coffee shop with $5 and eat a fucking bagel and a coffee for that. No, that would let up $1.
You better have $20, baby.
Yeah, I'm a Midwestern guy, so that's too many people for me.
But I agree. What about you, Jodi? Where can people contact you and find out how to get that far and stuff?
Well, of course, everyone can contact me and find out about my breasts on the Ghost Chat Radio fan page on Facebook, of course. And you can also
get rid of the post on there now saying, Jodi, I'm really, man. Show me pictures.
You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram under Johann, JOHAUNTS, or under Jodi Johann Smith on Facebook as well. So I'd love to hear from you. Totally hook up.
Oh, yeah, you can find me on Twitter as well, Elite Para KC.
Totally.
I forgot about that one.
I will stalk you down.
Excellent. Yeah, Jodi will stalk the hell out of you. No, I'm on kidding.
Nah, I'm not going to go.
That was pretty good. So. But if anyone wants to contact me, just look me up on Facebook, Jason Stanton, go to the Ghost Chat Radio fan page. You can meet me and Jodi there at the same time if you want. And ask us any questions you want. You can send us a message, make a post on there, and we do what we can to try to interact with everybody as much as we possibly can. So you definitely want to check that out. You can find me on Twitter. There is a Ghost Chat Radio Twitter page as well. So you can hook up with me there. You can go to LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. And I'm all over the place. If you just Google Voice Chat Radio, it pops up all over the place. So there's no reason why you can't get in contact with me or Jodi about the show. October's coming up, and we are having our fan appreciation show, which is going to involve all of you. Send us a story of your most famous, well-known ghost story that you have, whether it's bad, good, it don't matter what kind of story it is. Send it to us, and we're definitely reviewing those now. And we'll be sending out messages to everybody quite soon within the next couple of weeks of who we're going to have on the show. And, it's all for you guys, not for us. So you definitely want to do that. And what do we have tomorrow night, Jodi?
We have all kinds of great guest people. We are booked up through October. Tomorrow, we have on the CR groups that are connected to this all around the country. So join us tomorrow to hear all about it and learn more. And if you're interested, maybe you can join the initiative as well.
Oh, definitely. I can't wait for tomorrow night. I'm on 9 o'clock right here at the same time. Well, not the same time, but 9 p.m. Eastern. Right there at the same back channel. So until that is done, I will check you all out. And Jodi, it's been wonderful again talking to you. I'm sure I'll chat with you tomorrow sometime.
Sure you will.
But
later,
everyone.
Good night.
Thanks. You're welcome.
Thanks, Rod. Thank you.
Bye-bye.